Okay. Section 1.5. Do I need to enlarge this? Okay, today is the 27th, not the 26th. We're a day behind. But we're on section 1.5, so in your notes you should be having that. Solving inequalities. And then we're going to learn that there are 3 different ways that we can show the solutions to inequalities. And we're going to talk about those 3 ways. Okay. First thing you need to know is that inequalities, the steps for solving them are exactly the same as solving equations. There's only one stipulation. If at any point when you are moving something to the other side, you must multiply or divide by a negative number, you've got to flip the inequality symbol. All right, now let's think about why that might be so. Imagine your number line. On the left-hand side, you have negative numbers. On the right-hand side, you have positive numbers. We're looking at physical orientation. Okay? When you multiply a number by a negative, what does it do to the sign of that number? It changes it. So automatically, you've basically switched the side on the number line, right? So we've pretty much flipped around our number line. So that's why we have to flip our inequality symbol. Same thing with dividing by a negative. You've changed the sign of the number. So you've got to flip the inequality symbol to keep everything intact and in order like it's supposed to be. All right, we're going to look at an example. First example is here. And let me delete these things. If we have this inequality, 7x minus 5 is greater than 6x plus 4. If that was an equal sign in the center of it, what would be the first step? Get x on the same side. Move your x to the same side. Yes, ma'am.
I'm just kidding.
Ryan Domain?
And this is
Reese, are you here today?
Reese, could you please bring that one to Dad? Okay, thank you.
First thing we have to do is bring all of our x's on one side of our inequality. And so the way I'm doing it, what's in red is the extra stuff that I'm doing. I'm subtracting 6x from both sides. When I do that, I get x minus 5 is greater than a positive 4. Next step. Say it loud. Add 5 to both sides. Okay, I'm isolating the x term by adding 5 to both sides. When I do that, the 5's cancel, and I am left with 1x is greater than 9. Well, the 1 doesn't have to be there, but if you divide both sides by 1, you get x is greater than 9. Okay? Anything different from solving equations? No. Did we ever have to multiply or divide both sides by a negative? No. So the way the inequality started in the beginning is the way it finishes in the end. Now, when we get a solution to an inequality, most of the time the way you represent it is by graphing it on the number line. And we should all know how to graph on the number line. But here is an example of this specific solution. If x is greater than 9, I take my number line, and where 9 is, why is there an open circle on the 9?
not equal to 9.
Because it's not equal to 9. That open circle is a representation that we all know means it's not equal to 9. And then the line goes to the right because as you move to the right on the number line, your numbers get bigger. And it's bigger than 9. All right? Now, interval notation is a second way that we can write our answer. We can write our answer as a graph, which is what we just looked at. We can write it in interval notation. Everybody should be taking notes. I don't know why some of you are sitting there just looking. Answers can be written in interval notation, or it can be written in set builder notation. And after we finish the lesson, I'm going to go through some specifics of all of those different things so you can really see the difference between the three. And you might say, why do I need to know all three of them? Because you do. Everyone in here is going to be taking the ACT test as something you have to do to be admitted into college. And if the ACT puts an answer as a choice in any one of these three notations, you need to be able to pick it out. So let's talk real quick about interval notation. Okay, this is to help you see the connection. When we graph our inequality, we use an open circle on the number if it does not include that number. We use a closed circle if it does include that number. Does everyone agree with this? This is true. This is how we do it, right? In interval notation, you use parentheses and brackets. Parentheses go next to a number if it is not equal to the number. So a parenthesis is the same thing as an open circle. A bracket is the same thing as a closed circle. So when we see this notation, we should be able to visually see this graph. Now, does anybody know what this symbol is? Infinity. What does infinity mean? Goes on forever, okay? If we're going to the right forever, this is positive infinity. If you're going to the left forever, this is negative infinity. That's not confusing, okay? Now, when we're writing in interval notation, the order that you put these things in is very important because we want to think in terms of from left to right, just like we're reading. What is the first thing that our solution is equal to when we hit this graph? This one goes with this one. What's the first thing we run into? Negative infinity. It's equal, it's coming in this direction. Where's the stopping point? -1. So we started at negative infinity, we stopped at -1. Now, is there a specific point at negative infinity that I can say, there's my dot? No. So I have a parenthesis next to my infinity. And I have a parenthesis next to my -1 because that's the same thing as an open circle. It means it doesn't equal it, but it is the starting or stopping point. Look at the difference between this graph and its interval notation and this graph and its interval notation. What's the only difference? The bracket behind the -1. Nope, it's not a mistake. It represents a closed circle. It represents a closed circle. It means it does include -1. Okay? Excuse me? The one with the bracket corresponds to that graph. Yes.
What if it was going positive?
We're gonna look at a bunch of examples. Okay? And then you'll see the connection. All right, we're about to do that right now. Does everybody have this? Okay, y'all do me a favor. If I say, does everybody have this and you don't have it, say no ma'am. Thank you. Because I asked and nobody says or anything, but I can still see y'all all fervently writing.